So I'm the first SEBI-registered investment advisor of this state.
A 25-year-old guy who's fresh out of college and just getting into the job, getting at least an average salary of 25 to 30,000. How would he plan his investment?
But I've just seen people create 5 CR, 6 CRs with 7 to 15,000 rupees SIPs. Right? If creation of 10x wealth was that easy, everybody would be doing it. Everybody will be flying private jets. But unfortunately, these days, you have to be very, very careful about the financial instruments that you get into. Unfortunately, banks have become now the place where it's only just policies are being sold. In the 80s, there used to be banks samnare thila, beware of pickpockets. I would say that beware of the bank employees now. I follow very simple 2 basic strategies. I look at asset creation and
And so it begins.
We are about to reach our destination.
नमस्कार दि ओडिशा ड्रीम रो 4th एपिसोड को आपण मानकु स्वागत करुची। आज आम सांगरे अछंती मिस्टर कृष्णा रथ जे कि जने सेबी रजिस्टर्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट एडवाइजर। आज तांकोठु आमे जानिबा आमे आम इन्वेस्टमेंट टाको केमिति भलो से प्लान करि परिबा, आम रिटायरमेंट टाको केमिति आमे भलो से प्लान करि परिबा, F&O ट्रेडिंग रो प्रोज एंड कॉन्स तांको सहित आमे डिस्कस करिबा, आ प्लस अन्य गोल्स जोटा आमे सेट करूचे आम इन्वेस्टमेंट प्लान पई ताकू आमे केमिति अचीव करि परिबा। कृष्णा, welcome to the Odisha Dream.
thank you very much.
Krishna, we will start off by understanding gote registered investment advisor roles and responsibilities kona.
Thank you. So RIA, registered investment advisor, hochunti registered with SEBI, who in India can give investment advice and overall financial planning. So sabu gote profession ro gote legality gote thai. Like how can you call somebody a doctor? Gote MBBS number thibo issued by a government regulated authority. Semti jodi investment advice can be given by anyone. बहुत लोग को मैंने आजकल का फाइनेंशियल एडवाइजर है कि टाइटल लेके अच्छी, बट फाइनेंशियल एडवाइजर इन इंडिया इज अ सेबी रजिस्टर्ड इन्वेस्टमेंट एडवाइजर. If someone is not a SEBI-registered investment advisor, that person is not a financial advisor. So, financial advisor, wealth manager, these sabu terms is now reserved for a SEBI RIA. So now roles and responsibilities, duties, this is the formalization of investment advice. If I were to advise you, mujhe ki emti kichi gote random advice kahi paribeni. I have to understand Arun. I have to understand you. I have to know a lot more about you and create a personalized financial plan. The samodika investment advice is very, very personalized. Samodika jibanore there are different stages. Dependencies achi. Kahara parents or dependency, kahara sibling education, kahara wife working, not working, kids in school, not school. So everybody's life is unique. Also unique life ko reflect kariya pai gote financial plan kara hue. And that a SEBI registered investment advisor can do it. Now there are a few things different from what has been the norm. General norm hochi somebody comes, issues a financial plan, gives you some recommendations. Over here a SEBI registered investment advisor earns only from the client. So the person is representing the client and not a company. So I'll be charging clients just as a practice, just as a doctor charges clients, or a lawyer charges clients, but there is no commissions from any of the financial institutions.
But gote investment advisor dorkar kon pai gote janako mane life re, like say if whatever they're earning, they better understand that investments, right?
Yes.
What is exactly the role of an investment advisor?
So investment advisor will take away any biases. So biases there are. You could be seeing somebody have or maybe early 2000s re gote jami kiniki rakhi dechanti. Now that land might have multiplied 50x. that doesn't mean that I also have to do the same thing, right? So there are many biases. ଯଦି ତୁମେ ମାର୍କେଟରେ ଜଷ୍ଟ ସେମିତି ବୁଲିବେ ତ ବହୁତ ଲୋକ ବହୁତ ଜିନିଷ କହିବେ. People are talking from their perspective. They are not talking from like what is good for you or what. Again, the intention may not be bad. The intention ହେଉଛି ମୁଁ ଗୋଟେ ମୁମ୍ବାଇରେ ଗୋଟେ ଫ୍ଲାଟ୍ କିଣି ଦେଇଥିଲି, ମୋତେ ରେଣ୍ଟ ମିଳିଯାଉଛି ଏତିକି. ତ ତା ବୋଲି ନୁହେଁ ଯେ ତୁମେ ଯାଇକି ମୁମ୍ବାଇରେ ଗୋଟେ ରେଣ୍ଟ କିଣିବ. So one is everybody is influenced with lot of talk, discussion, social media talk and everything. The SEBI RIA is going to sit with you and find out what is good for you based on your finances, your income, your future dependencies. So that's बहुत important. That's why I always say it's a personalized financial plan. General plan kaha pai? General plan, yes, may be valid for 50-60% of the cases. But often we have to get into specifics. Because if we don't get into specifics, then we may land up in problem. For example, retirement plan haba. Working in government, working in private. Government rahele NPS darkar, no darkar. NPS is anyway mandatory there. But to the private achi, should you go for NPS? Should you not go for NPS? Those decisions are very critical.
What is NPS?
National Pension Scheme. Right? So, should you get into National Pension Scheme? And if you get into it, and again, financial products gote jinso, so tome thore posi gole, it's not very easy to come out. It's like taking BP medicine when you don't have BP. You will actually develop BP if you take BP medicine if you don't have BP, right? So if you get into a financial product, it's very, very difficult to come out of it. The exit means you have to take some loss somewhere. So it's very important to understand what you are getting into it. Either financial assets or physical assets. And that is why financial advisor is important.
Now that you have gotten into this particular advisory role since almost 3 years?
3 years of really active one.
Really active one. Now that you graduated from IIM Indore, worked in the IT space for a couple of years, maybe I think 2 decades, तापरे आपण investment advisory को आसिले. Why the shift into the investment side? What motivated you to come to the investment side?
Perfect. So, yes, I worked in technology firms. I worked in the back-end office of most of the financial institutions, global financial companies. And seutru moro finance ro bahut exposure milila. And plus, as a 25-year-old person back in 2005, ମୁଁ ବି ସେତେବେଳକୁ FNOରେ ଖେଳିଛି, investment କରିଛି, ବହୁତ ଜିନିଷ କରିଛି. Right? That's the cycle everybody goes through. So at that time, 2004 to 2008 was the first biggest bull run that we saw. And at that time, I was working in financial institutions, got interested in finance. And I always wanted to do something on the finance plus technology side, even back then. Tapre post my MBA from IIM Indore, I created my startup. And what startup? Back in 2013 that time, marketplace model both hotla. Like the Just Dials were making, the Olas and Ubers were there. Everything was marketplace. Say time, right? If you have a marketplace, then you are the startup king. So I wanted to create marketplace for something that had been just introduced by SEBI, which is the RIA model. That is, you pay fees and that is you charge customers and give impartial advice. What is valid for the client? So I thought that can I be the first, the first in the market, the first marketplace. So India, the first online marketplace for RIA was created by me. Now, say time I was not sure whether the biggies of Mumbai will join me or not. So I decided, let me also apply. That time I applied with SEBI. I think in Pune, I was in Pune that time when I started this. I was probably the second or the third in Pune to get this license. And then I approached all the RIAs across India.
How many RIAs are there in India?
That time there were only 25, but I think I was able to onboard 8 of them.
Oh,
right
nice.
Now there are only 780, I'm sorry. 780 RIAs. Registered Investment Advisor, 780.
And Odisha, how many are there?
There are only 2. And I am the first one.
Oh, great.
So I am the first SEBI-registered investment advisor of this state. And that happened because I changed my address from Pune to Bhubaneswar. And to be very frank, it was a very interesting thing. In fact, the SEBI office here also was very surprised that you are starting it. But again, the journey has been very challenging. initially getting traction was very difficult, but now I think post-COVID, thanks to also some of the influencers, the RIA and paying fees and getting financial advice, what is right for me, is now picking up in the market. In the last 3 years, a lot of traction has happened in this space.
Okay. So let's discuss an entire financial life cycle of a person. Gote financial life cycle mane gote 25-year-old guy, a 40-year-old guy, and a 60-year-old guy. A 25-year-old guy who is fresh out of college and just getting into the job, getting at least an average salary of 25 to 30,000. How would he plan his investment? Why? Because they're high on hormones. They want to travel the world. They want to, enjoy with their girlfriends or maybe boyfriends. Maybe have different, buy a bike or buy a car, their first bike and the first car. But in this entire journey, the financial discipline that is required, I think it goes haywire. So how do you suggest, and the recent phenomenon that is existing in India and is being very worrisome about the F&O trading that is happening, and there are a lot of companies who are giving training for F&O trading, right? So how do you guide a 25-year-old guy to be financially disciplined?
Very good. I really like the term financial discipline because that is most important. That's what an investment advisor does. An investment advisor is a coach. I put it as a coach, right? So the guidance has to be correct and the coaching has to be right. So 25, you are 25. Now, I follow very simple 2 basic strategies. I look at asset creation and asset protection. So asset can be anything, financial assets, mutual fund investment, stocks, assets can also be land, real estate, flat, right? So you create these assets and you have to protect it. So protection comes in form of insurance. Protection also comes in form of very simple nomination, the right nomination you do. I see many people, especially COVID state, we saw people, they have not even updated the nomination correctly, right? So there is asset creation, asset protection. Now at a 25-year-old, you said impressing girlfriend, bike and all that. Let's put it as 50% of the crowd. The other 50% may have loans and liabilities, education loan, okay? So it all again is factored that you have dependency. You may have sibling education, dependency, parents who you have to pay them back because maybe they have not planned for retirement. So eita hochi multiple stages. At 25, it's not just about earning money. It's also about trying to see what dependencies you have and how can we use your 25-30,000 to create some fund to tackle those dependencies. But very important, this is the time, whatever dependencies you may have or not have, tome jodi minimum 5,000 टंका jodi invest koruno, tale it will be very, very challenging. And that is a financial discipline you should have. 5,000, just 5,000, if you're getting 25-30,000, 5,000 should get into funds. Because that will create the discipline. That will create the discipline. Just 5,000 ka seti jauni, tale seta next, beer party re polebo ki seta polebo. It will just vanish. So 5,000 park it for investment. At least that much you want to do. Then the other thing is, this is the age when you have time to generate wealth. Ama jodi aji ka 25-year-old dekhuchu, and if I look, if I see myself 20 years back when I was 25, yes, I wanted to multiply wealth. F&O re khelichu. Setolku esobu fancy apps nathila, but the F&O market was also there. Lost money in that. Lost good amount of money in that. And I made good amount of money in mutual funds. Okay. Now, very important to understand long-term goals. 25 to 30. When you are 25, always look at the next 5 years. Next 5 years is critical because you will be getting married. You will be taking off the loans, the responsibilities from your parents' shoulder. You will have to create from your 30s, you will have to take a lot more responsibility. Children, education, so you have to plan for all that even when you are not even having a girlfriend. I create financial plans for 25 mandatorily. I said, I forget about retirement. Ago nijoro children's education kara. So I go, no, you do that first. Because by the time you have a child and by the time you do all the expenses will be increased. You will then think that let me compromise on that. So that's 5. And with 5,000 you can generate a lot of money. If you just simply put 5,000, you can generate a lot of money. I have seen today when people come to me with 5 CR, again financial planning is not with people who have 5 CR. Definitely people who have even 5,000 should actually come for financial planning. But I've just seen people create 5 CR, 6 CRs with 7 to 15,000 rupees SIPs very systematically right from 2005 onwards. Sometimes I regret, why didn't I not do that? Okay, but then the other thing is creation of 10x wealth. Right? If creation of 10x wealth was that easy, everybody would be doing it. Everybody will be flying private jets. Something हुए ही नहीं. The FNO training is given to someone who is probably thinking that can I take a bet? Can I take a lottery bet? That mu jodi 50,000 debi, jadi so 10x hegale, 5 lakhs hegala. Right? I've got my 1 year's salary. So people are taking bets. In fact, I'm surprised to know that people are not coming for 8,000 rupees financial plan to me and getting their retirement, children's education, parents' medical insurance, their parents' retirement corpus, everything. They're not getting this, but spending 50,000 rupees on FNO trading, where they're shown that eta hochi chart, eta hochi emtika red chart, eta hochi green candle, eta green candle. Green candle dekhige, you cannot multiply your wealth.
But what are the pros and cons of FNO trading?
Okay. See, FNO trading, or when we look at FNO or derivatives, it is not an illegal thing. It has its relevance in the entire multiple list of financial instruments that we have. So what are derivatives used is typically used for hedging purposes. And who should be in it? The large financial institutions use it. Because they have a lot of money. What if there is a deep swing in the market? Right? They will be having a lot of money, so that they have to have some hedging mechanisms. The seithipai hedging call puts and all are there. These are advanced things. These require advanced knowledge of what the underlying financial instruments are. And at a hedge mane kichi jodi heigale market re, some amount of loss can be taken care of. Now, jodi tom pakhre 50,000 टंका अछि, तमे कोन hedge करिवो? So people go for random lottery or option buying or option selling, jaha bhi koho. People say option selling re paisa अछि, emti ne jo option selling re khali paisa अछि. There is option buying, option selling, jaha bhi karle with 50,000, 1 lakh rupees, you are only going to burn that money. As simple as that.
Okay.
Derivatives has its purpose in the financial market to be used by advanced, large financial institutions.
Now coming to the second phase of life, in your mid-40s, where you are married, have kids karo schooling chalichi, you have parents who are getting old, and obviously the loans that you carry, home loans hegala,
Yes.
car loans hegala, other asset loans hegala. Go to mid-40s, and he must have, or he or she must have some aspiration.
Yes.
And they must have some travel goals as well.
Yes.
And then the travel goals might be abroad.
Yes.
Correct. So how do they plan their investments in their mid-40s?
Good. Whenever you are at a life stage, you have to always see 10 years back, I should not have done this. One important step is marriage children. Marriage ta tike control करके समझ रखिबे. आजकल का बहुत people are spending too much on marriage. I would suggest that keep it a little balanced, right? So a lot of people.
So you don't believe in the big fat wedding?
A big fat wedding, if you have that money, do it. I've seen people take personal loan and get wed, and then
I
getting
think that
married.
shouldn't be done.
That shouldn't be done. And even if you don't take personal loan, don't just wipe out your entire bank balance by the age of 30, 32, saying that mu ette karibi, mu samudri ko mutton kiribi, mu pura gaan ko dakibi. So don't overspend. Don't overspend. So that's one of the biggest. So from 25 to 40, the biggest event will be the marriage expense, and the biggest life change will be probably having a child. Right. So when you are in the 40s, if you have done the right things in the 20s, right, then you will have sufficient corpus so that you can make your home loan down payment. You can maybe even buy a car completely in cash, And again बहुत गोटे लोकंकर गोटे धारणा अच्छी कि taking loan is bad. It's okay to take loan, but don't take too much of loan. Very important to figure out that the EMI component should be such that nijor salary, so total EMI should not be more than 25%. So it's a thumb rule करके मानो. ଲୋକମାନେ ଆଜିକାଲିକା ଯାଉଛନ୍ତି ବାଙ୍ଗାଲୋରରେ ଘର କିଣୁଛ ବାଙ୍ଗାଲୋର କ'ଣ ଭୁବନେଶ୍ୱରରେ ଆମର ଏଇଠି ତ ହେଇଯାଇଛି ଜୁବି ବିଲ୍ଡର ପାଖକୁ ଯାଆନ୍ତୁ ଲାଇକ୍ ଇଟ୍ସ ଲାଇକ୍ ୟୁ ଫିଲ୍ ଦ୍ୟାଟ୍ ୟୁ ଆର୍ ସୋ ପୁଅର୍ ରାଇଟ୍ 2.5 CR 3 CR so don't overstretch, right? don't stretch. The EMIs are very very important. Buying a house is the biggest decision, the biggest financial burden that any person in the 40s has, especially तमे middle class कहंतु upper middle class कहंतु जहाँ भी लोन नेले हाउसिंग. सो टेक प्रूडेंट डिसीजंस. भाभी चिंतिका नियंतु एमती नुहे जे महंती बाबू नहीं गले तो मते भी नबार अच्छी. ओके सीए नहीं गले तांकर अच्छी. देन like you said, apart from the house and the car, take a बड़ टीवी दरकार. Okay, so TVs also are being purchased on EMIs, right? So a lot of EMI purchase happens, and that's because आजकल का loan नबा पर जो easiness अच्छी, right? So that is there. And while it may appear temporarily that you can make that purchase, you have to control your expenses. Very important. Because there are certain things which you have to focus on. Children's education. Taku primary focus kariki. Then you see miscellaneous expenses. Then you see the house and the auto. And tapre rohile tome bhabibo je hamo Bali Sumatra jibi. किंतु बाली सुमात्रा जाइके आसला परे मते कांटेक्ट करबे भाई मो पाखे पैसा नहीं अपन इन्वेस्टमेंट एडवाइजर तो आई कैन नॉट रिंग बेल्स एंड देन गिव यू मनी, राइट? इनकम माइनस इन्वेस्टमेंट्स इक्वल टू एक्सपेंसेस प्लस EMIs. एटा होची फॉर्मूला. सो यू गेट योर इनकम, यू इन्वेस्ट इन योर फ्यूचर. तापरे कोन आसीबो? तापरे आसीबो योर एक्सपेंसेस. यू विल हैव टू टेक केयर. घर खर्च तो करिया पड़ियो. तुम कहबनी नहीं मु इन्वेस्टमेंट बेसी करी कि मु आलू पियाज किणिबिनी से तो हो पारे. लाइक एक्सपेंसेस आर दैट. आफ्टर दैट यू थिंक अबाउट योर EMIs. So if you have this framework in mind, you will be able to control your expenses. And 40s, very critical. Again, two set of categories in India. Government, private. Agru jetla amaro maybe 20 years back, even private companies also had job stability. आजकल का job stability is not there. By 40s when you are there, your growth is stagnant. Growth is stagnant everywhere. Whether you are in government or in private, the growth is stagnant. Government you can sit and I won't say relax, but there is pressure these days also. But your growth is stagnant. Private, it is stagnant and there is pressure also. So you don't know. You may be out of job by the age of 50, 55. So by 40s, you have to be very clear. Can you run till 60 or you want to exit at 55 or you have to exit at 55?
Okay. So, ebe, taking your example, you in the mid-40s
Yes.
took a decision to start your own.
Yes.
Similarly, बहुत लोग चाहूथिबे कि निजर किछि स्टार्ट करिबाको.
Yes.
But they do have that responsibility of family,
Yes.
of the EMIs, of the loans. आपण केमती मैनेज कले से जिनसटा को?
Again, so starting investment, creating buffer funds. So when you are in a business or when you do startups, right, the income is never steady. It's not a salary. It is a business income, right? So always ensure that when you leave your job and get into something, you can at least have 75% of the income being replaced and manage your EMIs correctly. So I'm still on a home loan. I'm still paying the EMI, but the EMI doesn't hurt me. So the home loan EMI is there. My child's expenses, I have aggressively in the last 7 years done the investment. The day he was born, ticket delay hella. Of course, I got a big smocking from my wife that investment advisor hai ki tum aise plan karno. But we started it. We have been very, very aggressive on it. And the markets have been very good in the last 4 years. So hence, most of the future education, graduation goals have been met. Right? So the thing is, always have that surplus buffer. Always have a buffer for the next 2 to 3 years. In fact, जेतले मु 2014 रे exit करके when I did my first venture, that's a marketplace venture, I had back in 2009-10 purchased a property in Pune. So that property was an investment property. It was giving me rental yield. So when I exited, I sold it. So that gave me the buffer amount to survive for the next 2 to 3 years. including expenses, including travels, and there were no EMIs that time. But now, the planning is more systematic, if I were to say. So always plan these things very well. Always plan it.
Now, coming to the later part of a financial life, you are in your 60s trying to get retired, planning to get retired, and you plan your investment accordingly. And there is a burden of medical insurance, there is a burden of family, the kids growing up, they have their colleges, they have to pay for their colleges. So how does a person je ki ta 60-year-old wants to get retired will plan an investment?
So if you have done good things in 25, children's education will not be a big concern at the age of 60 because that's already taken care of. Now, if you have not done that, there is only one option, that is to take an education loan. Right? Unfortunately, that's what typically happens. So that's why I always tell 25 to 35 is very critical. Plan for the age of 60. Now, I want to tell this instance. On social media feed, I got one feed that it's been 15 years since 3 Idiots was released. So I was like shocked. I said that 15 years. I was there in the hall. I was actually watching this movie. So time just flies. It just goes very fast. You will not even realize. Now, by the time you're 60, you have no time to earn additional income. Or so you don't have that productivity, or people may think that you may be very expensive, right? If we were to hire you. So you will not have the flexibility in job. Right? You cannot go around and work. Very, very few people can break that mental barrier and get along with very young people. Right? And then there is always a generation gap. So 60s, very, very difficult. So 20s, 40s is your last chance to plan for 60s. I'm sorry, I'm repeating this, but very important. So when you are at the 60s, education, if you are not planned for it, loan. That's the only solution. When you are at the 60s, very important to take care of what assets you have built, right? I say, right, you build your assets and you protect your assets. So any asset, financial assets that you have built or retirement funds that you are expecting to get, typically ଲୋକମାନେ କ'ଣ କରନ୍ତି କି ପୁରା retirement fund ଗୋଟେ ଘରରେ ପକେଇ ଦିଅନ୍ତି. And that you have to always think that should you do it or not? Is it okay even to stay on rent for a couple of years before you settle and find out the right place to live? Generally, at least Odisha situation, what happens is people work across the state. Kooti retirement korbe Bhubaneswar, right? So Bhubaneswar retirement kollago, that's why the prices are also very high. Forget working in Odisha, even across India, they come back to Bhubaneswar. Right? So huge demand on real estate. Right? So how much should you shell out for your retirement from your retirement corpus into real estate? Because once it's put in real estate, kali tome oda bathroom, you cannot sell a bathroom, right? It is fixed. That is the flat, that's amount. And for that, you have to be always very conscious. The location has to be very clear. Hospitals have to be nearby. It has to be having good transportation. So there is premium to it. So you should not spend everything for retirement. For the post-retirement home, right? So that's one mistake that people do, because at 60 you make that mistake. And what other things are there? Yes, a lot of things are there in terms of children's higher education, and that's at times you may have to decide to even postpone it. I have seen a lot of people, especially ajika age re nai pilamane tike struggle korchanti kahi gote kamo karo gote MBA pe padao. Okay, so MBA is should not be a reason to just stretch your studies, right? I would always suggest that work, let the children start earning, let them also see earning kaun hue, and then you take a decision whether you want to contribute a part of their post-graduation expenses. Of course, it also depends on children kooti poduchandi. If it is MBBS, then that's a little bit difficult, because then by the time you start earning, it's a little late. So parents have to support it. Right? And that is why by the time the child is around 11, 12, they already koi I want to be a doctor, you have to aggressively start investing. Otherwise, it's going to be very, very challenging.
Okay.
And how would you so? One thing I have observed in 60s, is that especially today when people are at the age of 60, what happens is you have gone through the cycle of the 80s, the 90s, where certain financial institutions, and let me name it also, banks are considered to be very trustworthy because most of your actually corpus has been with them, right? Yes, there are few people who have built wealth on equity, but most of the corpus has come up from the banks, the FDs, the PPF, the EPFs, everything is like safe, secure. But unfortunately, these days, you have to be very, very careful about the financial instruments that you get into. That is, let me give an example, that my mother, one day she pings me up in WhatsApp saying that I have gone to renew my FD. And now bank manager कहले जे गोटे कोन टैक्स फ्री एफडी अच्छी जो बहुत भल बेनिफिट मिले एक्स्ट्रा रिटर्न भी मिले तो मुझे सरप्राइज हो मुझे एमती कौन प्रोडक्ट अच्छी मुझे तो जानी सेबी आ रहे है कि मुझे जब ना जानी इट्स वेरी इट्स नॉट गुड फॉर माय PR. तो देन आई कॉल माय मदर एंड देन शी सेंड मी अ फोटो गोटे ब्रोशर फोटो गोटे यंग कपलटे झील एमती दौड़ी गोटे कुकुर भी दौड़ी तो मो मदर को फोन कल कि वेयर डू यू सी योर सन दैट फोटो इट्स अ यूलिप प्लान. She was missold ULIP plan, saying that it is an FD. I call up the bank manager. I say that I need clarification. I want this thing to be cancelled. So कहले नाଇଁ सर आपण बोधे जाननांती एथरे इक्विटी अच्छी इक्विटी आपको एमती 15-20% रिटर्न दे देबो आउ 5 वर्ष पर तुमको टैक्स फ्री रिटर्न कैन इंश्योरेंस प्रोडक्ट बोले सेडा सब ठीक अच्छी प्रोडक्ट इज ग्रेट एंड ऑल दैट किंतु हाउ कुड यू सेल इट टू अ 67-year-old widow? You're talking about a 67-year-old widow whose FD is the primary, the entire earnings that my father has created, and that is there. Yes, there is some family pension that is coming up, but that FD is a main corpus. So asset protection, when I say right, that is asset creation. You create the assets till 60. After 60, you should protect your assets. The financial instruments that you get into should be very clearly what is fit for you. And you have to be very, very careful about financial instruments getting missold. The secondary FD ru semane gote ULIP plan kini dele, but getting that back took us 2 months.
Okay.
2 months lagila. Tapare case register hela, of course they are not bothered. No, korontu jaha korontu. IRDA को मैं पचारली जे केस हबो ये हबो तमे कहि देबो हां मनी इज रिटर्न. But on what basis can you sell?
But are they not charged for the misinformation they are sharing with the customers?
No, so the regulator has this thing, right? First, you have to raise a complaint with the company, right?
No.
So if a company doesn't answer in 45 days, then come back to us. Don't come to us directly because we have given them the authority and they have their own complaint department, blah blah blah, and all that.
How do we save such kind of problems? Like I am sure कि आपनको माँ जदि a particular situation through देकी जाइछंती,
exactly,
there
and
must be other people who are going through the same issue, and how these people raise their voice is also a question mark.
yes,
right?
Many may not be raising. See, my mother knew that something is wrong. Okay, but then she thought that okay, it's been given by the bank, so it has to be trustworthy. First and foremost, nothing happens for free. So सेटा जदि किए जदि smoothly talk करची and then just getting and selling a product, there is a huge embedded commission. Unfortunately, banks have become now the place where it only just policies are being sold. Passport update करे पे जाउचो सेमाने कहबे आगे गोटे ULIP ने जाउंतु जाउचो पासपोर्ट रे गोटे करेक्शन अच्छी करिया पे कि यू वांट एक्चुअली डेपोजिट कैश देखि कि कहबे आगे गोटे काम करंतु हमर ए जोटे फंडे ने जाउंतु. So there is a lot of selling. Right? Anything that comes with free, you have to think 3 times. 3 थोड़ा भाबिबे ये काहे कि मते एटा बिकौची.
Okay.
Right? That is one thing that I want this as a basic thing. भाई ये तो किछि पैसा नोनी पुनी ये काहे कि ये मोरो कोन दे माने हां ठीक अछि मोर दे भला हबो एंड ऑल दैट. Right? That is fine. ULIP तमे बिको बट टिके एज ग्रुप देखो टिके फैक्टर देखो. Don't just look at हां यापे एते FD अछि तले भय दबा हे गला 5 वर्ष पे. But for 5 years and money is locked. And the next 5 years, if the global economic recession could happen, you are 67. For you, liquidity is most important. If it was 45-year-old person, 35-year-old person, ठीक होची मु रखी देबी 10 वर्ष पे. तापर से anyway ULIP will be in market, it may give me some return. But 67, 60 years and I'm seeing that happening, it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. In the 80s, there used to be a bank samnare thila, beware of pickpockets. Now, I would say that beware of the bank employees now. When you enter, you have to be very, very careful. And that starts right from the, security guard. Security guard भी गोटे credit card रो गोटे form sir गोटे नहीं जानते गोटे credit card.
क्रेडिट कार्ड टा टिके बेसी पुश होचे ना.
See, everything has been pushed. Insurance has been pushed. Insurance has been pushed in the form of FDs.
What are the important insurance that a person should have?
Very true. So asset protection, right? I come back to asset protection when you are 60s. So be very clear. If you have children, be very, very clear who gets what assets. Ajikal what has happened is the main disputes in families may happen because parents can't koi thile tama pake ghara achi, single ghara achi, seta kemti split habo. Be very clear what your children will get. So if you have one child, obviously there is no problem. If you have two children, make it very clear that what son should get, what daughter should get, what both daughters should get. Make it very clear. Will planning is very important. And I would say will and estate planning should start even when you are young. Asset protection, ajikal ka jo assets hoche, for example, real estate assets. Maybe earlier we used to not think about this. But today, because of the growth of India, and India next 10 years is definitely going to grow, your assets are going to multiply. So when you are not there and if your assets are simply lost, it's a very sad thing sometimes to see disputes going on in family. So asset protection, most important. Insurance is one part of it, that when you die, but create will. Things should be very clear. Second is insurance. So at the age of 60, if you take life insurance, it doesn't make any sense. The premiums will be so heavy, and secondly, by the time you are 50, thanks to amaro jo khaiba piba, ame jo jate mutton, chicken jo khao, by the time amaro health emti thiba je insurance policy koiba na sorry ame apanku cover kari paribane. So right from 25 itself, I go back to 25. Now you are 60, think you are 60. I'll tell what regrets people will have. Oh, I'm sorry, I should have taken a health insurance policy long time back. Right, so that all waiting period, everything, health record achi gote, bhalo health record achi. So take health insurance policy. Now, at least by 40s. Now, at 60s, you can still enroll if you have not done so into health insurance policy. At that time, medical expenses is the highest expense. Potential, right, from 60s to 75, 80s. So how you can take a good amount of coverage. Gote 15 lakhya, 20 lakhya rankar gote coverage number, with a deductible concept, that is 0 to 1 lakh I will pay. So seithre kon hoba, premium is also less. That is one way of getting good coverage. Because medical expenses ajikal ka tome dentist paku ko jiba se khali danta khol do, and that amount is great. You get into any popular big hospitals here in Bhubaneswar, it is easily 1.5 2 lakh rupees, right? Even simple gallbladder operation, appendicitis operation is around 1 lakh. Package konti 60,000, but then other things are there apart from the package. It's like a holiday home package, right? So 60 plus 60 plus 60, easily 1.8 2 lakh rupees. So, and if there is a serious condition, the bills will easily go to 5 to 6 to 7 lakhs, right? So you cannot have 10 lakhs rupees of medical corpus. So have a 3 lakh rupees of medical corpus. That 3 lakh kon haba ki at least thore jodi hospitalization hale 0 to 1 lakh from there will be taken out. And that should be only in FD, preferably SBI FD. Small, don't try to be a multi-millionaire, don't try to buy a yacht in Florida using that 3L. Keep it in SBI FD, jette tax ho, rate of interest. 3L should be there. 0 to 1 lakh is your deductible. Have 15 to 20 lakhs of medical coverage. This is most important when you are 60.
Okay. Coming to the last question. How do you suggest an HNI based out of Odisha or based out of India to invest their corpus in maybe startups or maybe other asset class? How do you suggest them as an investment plan?
Yeah. So when it comes to HNI, you could be any age group, 25 to 50, 60 and all that. And you have already created good amount of corpus. That's why you are classified as an HNI. So now, how do you multiply wealth? So multiply multiply 100x, right? So no, you have to grow that wealth gradually. And you can grow, and since most HNIs would be somewhere, 80% of them would have done businesses, it is best time to diversify into other businesses, right? And leverage your existing connects, or just in fact simply just invest in other businesses. What businesses? Investing in startups. That is, ame janichu elki mutual funds, equity, stocks, people invest. These are listed companies, right? They have certain risks, but their balance sheet is there. Get into startups. There is no better time in India than today to invest in startups. Because if India has to become $10 trillion economy, and if your own business has to survive, you have to contribute to the economy by creating an ecosystem that will support your own business and grow your own business. So
very true,
right? So you cannot just simply sit in isolation ki au kiye karibo mu to basigali moro to hejo. No, that will not happen. You have to ensure, and that's where wealth multiplication will happen. And today startups are mature. Most of the startup ecosystem is mature. Both lokomane are kind of taking startups very seriously. That is, founders themselves are committing large number of things into the startup. That is their own equity, their own money, their own life, sweat and all that. And we need to create a base. 10 years back, se base ta nathila. ମୁଁ ପୁନେରେ ଯାଉଥିଲି ମାନେ ଲିଟରାଲି ଆଇ ମେଟ୍ ସମ୍ ଷ୍ଟାର୍ଟଅପ୍ ଇଭେଣ୍ଟସ୍ କିଛି ଡିସ୍କସ୍ ହେଉନଥିଲା ବାଙ୍ଗାଲୋରରେ କ'ଣ କିଏ କରିଥିଲା ଆରେ ବାଙ୍ଗାଲୋରରେ କିଏ କ'ଣ ଥିଲା ଏଇଠି କ'ଣ ଅଛି ନାଇଁ ଏଇଠି କିଛି ନାହିଁ ଓକେ ସୋ ଆଇ ଏମ୍ ଟକିଂ ଆବାଉଟ୍ ପୁନେ ସିଟି 10 years back did not have anything. Today the startup ecosystem is trying to at least compete against Bangalore. First Cry is a company from Pune. I've talked to many founders over there who have done good things. So now startup and most important thing, startup is now an acceptable employment type.
Okay.
Very important. नहले कौन होता 10 वर्ष आगु जदि मु कहबो स्टार्टअप रे अछि लोक मन कहबे अच्छा चाकरी में हेई नी तमरो तापरे गोटे काम करंतु मु प्रधान बाबू को फोन करछि से तुम गोटे चाकरी दे देबो. So now startup means you are doing something, right? And that acceptance has also slowly come to Odisha. And this is the best opportunity for HNIs to get into VC funds. So startup kemti jiba. Do you want to put all your money in 1-2 startups? You can get into VC funds. That's like a mutual fund of startups, right? They will invest in maybe say 15 to 20 companies. Maybe 10 of them will fail. 5 of them may become moderate success. But that 5 that will become big things, right? That's going to add to your wealth. That's going to multiply your business network and also increase your own business revenue.
Absolutely. So ame be the Odisha Dream ro concept re we want to create that Odisha Dream fund. Jotre ki we want HNIs to invest in that fund so that we will use that investments in terms of investing in startups, investing in new businesses, and maybe help the new entrepreneurs to create more businesses, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. And that should be the way forward. You have created wealth, right? Create wealth. Upon dekhibe Narayan Murthy, he didn't stop working because he created an IPO back in 91. He would have also exited. Na? So, but what did they do? They sat there. They actually multiplied. So if you see, if Narayan Murthy had not done what he did in the 80s and the 90s, probably we would not have reached the situation where dollars would have come in, people would have the paying capability, invest in real estate, create an ecosystem of real estate. From there, people generated wealth. So wealth creates wealth.
Absolutely.
You have to, if heart just thinks that I'll keep all the blood to myself, your body is going to die. And heart itself will be the first thing that will collapse. Right? So blood has to flow in so that all your organs will work. Only if all organs work, the body works. So for your economy to grow, for you to grow, you have to generate the next set of entrepreneurs, next set of successful millionaires. And I'm very sure that can happen in Odisha. And that will happen in Odisha.
Very well. Thank you so much for coming to our podcast, Krishna.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
It was really, a very knowledgeable session, I would say. And I think a lot of people who see this podcast will take real great insights about, getting into a proper financial discipline. And I hopefully the HNIs also start investing in startups, and may the entire startup ecosystem in Odisha grow multifolds. Thank you so much, Krishna.
Thank you very much, Arun. Thank you. Great job. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. आहुरी नुआ नुआ गेस्ट को सुनिबाकू प्लीज आमर चैनल को लाइक शेयर एंड सब्सक्राइब करंतु, प्लस आम इंस्टाग्राम हैंडल को भी फॉलो करंतु, दी ओडिशा ड्रीम. थैंक यू सो मच.